Welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, like I said, don't think he needs an introduction at this point, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. Andrew, before we dive into what this video is about, which you guys can hardly tell by the title, going to go ahead and plug the awesome promo we have going on our website right now, Tar Heel Illustrated. Sign up before April 25th. You don't pay until August 1st. You get premium access to our boards. You get a ton of stuff that we don't put on the front. We don't report everything as news articles on the front page. We have a lot of, insight, a lot of observations, a lot of scoops, for lack of a better word, that we throw on our premium message boards. We've anything from, what's going on right now in terms of the Walker Kessler situation, to the UNC basketball's coaching search, to Justin McCoy transfer, that in basketball and in football as well. So really awesome opportunity right now. Like I said, sign up before April 25th. You don't have to pay until August 1st. And if you even want to join after that, it's just $8.33 a month. We're not trying to steal too much change from you guys. And like I said, it's definitely worth it in some of the content. And we have premium articles as well that you can't see unless you're signed up. So definitely go consider that. Sign up for free. Don't pay for a few months. Great deal we have going on right now. But AJ, I think that's enough for the plug. Let's go ahead and dive into this one as we always do. This would be the sixth installment of our Tape Talk football series. Going to focus on the outside linebacker hybrid, whatever you want to call it. Jay Bateman gets a kick out of that when we ask him during press conference. I think he's been asked many good times and never really given us a great answer for it. Carolina, if you go on their roster, they just list them as linebackers. But for the sake of this one, we're going to call
outside.
Yeah, we're going to
call them outside linebackers, but they're just listed as linebacker.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We're going to call them outside linebackers.
Call them hybrids.
/hybrids. Hybrids is nice too. I think that one probably fits it a little bit better because outside linebacker isn't quite what you may expect it to be if you look at a typical kind of defense across football. But let's dive into these guys. You got Tamon Fox and Tyrone Hopper as guys that are obviously the old heads in that room, returning for their super senior seasons, if you will. And then a lot of younger guys after them. We'll kind of focus on the older guys to start out. How valuable is it to you, AJ, to have guys like Fox and Hopper coming back? Because when you look at, which we'll dive into, how young this group is, I think it really bodes well just for the development of some of these younger guys and what you're going to get from those guys in games because they've done it before. So I think that they really did well going into the season.
Yeah, if neither one of them came back, we would be talking about the biggest question mark on the roster being the hybrid guys.
Definitely.
Because there'd be a lot of talented guys there, but unproven. Mm-hmm. Players that don't have a ton of reps. Chris Collins' playing time in the last couple of years has been sort of inconsistent. Desmond Evans got some time last year, but you talk to the players and the team, it's like this, need to learn the playbook better, need to get stronger. Well, we've seen that Des is stronger, and everybody's saying that he understands the playbook a lot better. So having guys like Tamon and Tyrone especially, Tamon's played 3,000 snaps.
Yeah, dude's been around for a while.
Some crazy number of snaps.
Yeah.
He played 75 snaps in 2 games in the 2016 season when Mitch Trubisky was the quarterback.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was at that game in the Georgia Dome. I remember
that was against Georgia in the Georgia Dome, and then up at Illinois. And he got hurt in practice the week after Illinois. So Tamon is going to end up probably playing more snaps than anybody in the modern times. Back in in the World War II era, a lot of dudes were playing both ways and stuff, really into the 50s. And Chris Hamburger played both ways, even way back in the early 60s. So, but in the more modern era, he'll end up playing more snaps probably than anybody that's played in North Carolina because of the super senior year. And he's going to rack up some serious numbers. But he's a guy that I've seen him when I was watching the hybrids the other day in practice at the April 10th, we had an open practice and scrimmage. He was doing some teaching. He went first in the drills at times, and Kamen Rucker went first in the drills at times. Tamon was doing some teaching. He's always talking to other guys, and they're going to listen to him because he's got an unbelievable amount of experience out there, and he's had success. So he's registered a lot of sacks in his career. He's been a better than average player throughout his entire UNC career. So he commands a lot of respect in that room, and he gives the staff a guy that they know that whatever role they put him in this year, he's going to handle it. He's going to handle it well. And he sort of bridges the gap to next year when a lot of these younger guys are going to be more ready for massive 60 snap a game roles. Hopper hasn't played nearly as much as Tamon. He's had injuries, and he was in the Shoegate thing, so he missed some games a few years ago as well with that. And he just kind of really found himself last year And he was a guy that had some huge moments and then he had some struggling moments. So consistency was one of the issues with him. And one of the reasons he came back is because when you see that high end on him when he plays, that's the kind of guy that could get into a camp at the NFL level. I'm not saying he's going to get drafted or he's going to make a roster, but you get into a camp and that's all the NFL cares about. They disregard everything else. Once you get in camp, they look at you then, can you help us now? And so Tyrone's got some high-end stuff that's going to get him there. What he wants to do this year is show more of that high-end stuff. Mm-hmm. So he maybe gets drafted later, certainly solidifies him getting an invite somewhere, signing as a free agent. And if he's that kind of guy, he's going to help this team.
Oh, yeah.
So you have an older guy, a guy who knows how to practice, a guy who knows how to study, a guy who knows how to comport himself, a guy who knows how to travel, a guy who got to the program, was first interested in the program when it was on its high end under Larry, then it went through the depths, and now it's climbing back up. So I think having those older guys in that room is huge for this team. And it gives I wouldn't call them a Band-Aid because they're better than Band-Aids, but definitely. It gives them a bridge to next season with those guys, and also allows them to get on the field and the coaches know that they're going to have some dudes they can trust as Kalen Rucker continues to develop, as Des Evans continues to develop, as Chris Collins eventually finds himself. He's kind of traveling a similar path that Hopper did, and it's kind of time for him to get on the field and consistently perform, which would obviously enhance the group. And I know we're going to talk about the other guys here in a second. But the effect of Fox and Hopper is directly associated with those other guys. Because if they're playing 60 snaps a game, maybe it's because they're great, but also it might be because the other guys haven't developed as much as the staff would like.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just think having, like you mentioned, just having guys that have been there and done that in the program for as long as these guys have, it just bodes well for the development of the younger guys. It bodes well for the production that you're going to see on the field in some of these bigger games, especially because you've got guys that have been and played in big moments for, years now. So, yeah, I think those guys, the value that they bring, I think, for lack of a better word, is invaluable just because of, like we're going to talk about here in a second. It is, I'm not going to say a steep drop-off, but in terms of experience, it's definitely a pretty big drop-off for the other four guys kind of in that room. Des Evans, a guy that got a lot of reps last year, still developing, still needs to get a little bit bigger, but showed glimpses last year of how good he can be, and also had some moments and some head-scratching moments where you say, okay, this guy's still got to develop a little bit, which you expect from a true freshman last year, playing on an ACC caliber level for UNC. So no really surprises there, but it'll be interesting to see kind of the jumps that he can make. And then you mentioned Chris Collins, a guy that's been around the program, I think was redshirted Mac Brown's first year when he came in as a sophomore. But last year actually played more than, it was funny. I was looking at some of his snap counts doing one of our practice reports here recently, and I was like, oh, he actually played a little bit more than I thought he did. And he had some nice moments as well. And you also think, okay, well, he played a lot more than I did, and I don't really remember him being out there. So that kind of shows you that there's still a lot of development on his side that he needs to make. And then you got a guy like Kenan Rucker who played a lot last year as a true freshman as well, saw a lot of reps, got a lot of action last year and showed some glimpses of how good he can be. Kind of similar to the Des Evans situation, potential, but still a lot to work out just because of how young they are. And then you got Ethan West as well, a guy that is just bulked up a lot, man. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but that guy has put on some pounds and put on some weight since last season. It's very evident, and he's one of the guys when we've seen in these spring practices that we've been able to go to. He's one of the guys that stands out just in terms of his physical development as well. But just kind of your thoughts on, I guess, some of the younger guys in that room, and I'm putting Chris Collins in the younger guys category, even though he's not. But in terms of the amount he's played, kind of goes hand in hand with the four guys as well. But I think it's kind of similar to the DL. A lot of potential in there, but still got to do a lot of development. And some guys are going to have to get better and step up and have bigger roles this season to replace the likes of Fox and Hopper, not only going in the future, but also to make sure those guys don't have to play, 80-plus snaps a game.
Collins is kind of in between Hopper and Fox and then the other guys. So
been around for a while too. Yeah.
He's been around. He played as a true freshman some. Mm-hmm. They just had such a need. They kind of threw him out there. And so he did redshirt the next year to get stronger and also to sort of develop into the hybrid role.
He's a big kid.
The body type for the hybrid role.
Big kid too, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of smart guys in that room. Collins is a really smart guy.
Yeah.
Rucker's a really smart guy. Tamon's a smart guy. Tyrone and Hopper's smart. They got a lot of smart guys in that room. And I think you have to be smart to play that position because it's such an involved position. And they're a big – Bateman likes to disguise. He likes to do a lot of different things and give different looks. And The hybrid guys have to be just totally on point with all that stuff. They have to be a linebacker. They have to be a defensive end. They have to be able to cover. They have to be able to rush. They have to do all kinds of things. They have to be physical in the run game. They have to kind of encompass everything you want on defense. So you've got to be smart. You've got to have a rugged mindset where you go from covering a guy downfield one play to stopping a run at the line of scrimmage the next. It's all part of who you are. It's your job description. So they're the quintessential football players. If you were to say, maybe instead of asking Bateman, well, is it hybrid? Is it defensive end? Is it linebacker? They just say football player.
Yeah.
DFBP, defensive football player. Or just that DFP, defensive football player, because that's what they are.
Different things, yeah.
So part of the development for those younger guys is becoming football players, not just position guys, but football players. And I think that Desmond Evans is a guy that will be really interesting to watch because he looks so much bigger this year than a year ago. And we talked about when we did a video after the first open practice that we saw. He's long and lean. He's always going to look long and lean in a football uniform. And that could be a really good thing because in time, as his strength continues to develop, he's going to be deceptively strong. And I think he's deceptively quick and deceptively fast. And he's going to create some problems when the full light goes on for him. I don't know if he's there yet. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a value in having Fox and Hopper back, because the light doesn't necessarily have to go on for him right now. They're not going to throw him out there and say, well, we're going to sink or swim with him at 50 snaps a game. He has an opportunity to develop without a lot of pressure getting out there and producing just yet. But he's going to have to produce at some point because he's such a talented guy. And he's going to need to get quality reps. He's going to need to show growth in his game this season. And I suspect that he will. Collins is a guy that, when he came in, the previous staff was just in love with him. He was a huge pickup out of Benedictine and Richmond. Because he's so smart, because he's so athletic, because he's a guy that could come in, they figure they could put him in a couple different spots and he would excel. Well, now it's going to be an opportunity for him to also show consistency, which is something that he didn't really do a year ago. So if they get consistency with Tamam, which I think they know they'll get, if they get it with Tyrone, which they're hoping they'll get, and they get it with Collins, suddenly you have three hybrid guys who are older, who are experienced, who are smart, who are athletic, who are suddenly consistent. And if Bateman knows what he's getting from that spot, he can unleash a lot more of his stuff, especially if the guys up front are above average on a regular basis as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Then we could see more of Jay Bateman's defense. So these hybrid guys are hugely important. And in order for Jay to unleash stuff, the hybrid guys have to be trusted to unleash as well. And I think they're heading in that direction. But the younger guys, and Ethan West, by the way, let me go to him. I'm sidebarring here. I'm doing an AJ sidebar. Man, he looks the part.
He does.
It's going to take some time. Watch him do some drills and stuff. He's got to learn it. And he missed a lot of time last year because he got hurt. He was actually an important member of special teams.
Yeah, he was.
And then he got hurt and he just missed a ton of reps because he didn't have the spring or anything like that. So he's got to get practice reps, scrimmage reps, that kind of stuff. I think there's potential down the road for him to factor into something on this team. The guy looks the part. I like the room, Jacob.
I do, yeah.
But outside of Tamal and Tyrone, there's still questions there.
I want to ask you this before we wrap it up. Would you?
Well, let me talk Kenan Rucker. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
My bad, because I'm a big Kenan Rucker guy.
Yeah. Talented kid.
He was the first of all those freshmen who played a lot against Syracuse last year. He's a playmaker, and he's super smart. He's really athletic. He's getting bigger and stronger. He's a playmaker. He's the guy. If there's anybody outside of Hopper and Fox that are going to push for a lot of playing time and maybe nudge Hopper and Fox out of some reps this year, it's Kenan Rucker. I think Kamen's upside is enormous. He's a guy that's not going to miss a beat in the film room. He knows the playbook. He's going to be prepared. He's got an amazing attitude, and he's really athletic. He's just got a nose for making plays. So if he becomes that guy and they have 3 dudes or 4 dudes that they can totally trust out there, that position is going to be in excellent shape.
Agreed. I want to ask you this before we wrap it up. Would you kind of compare Chris Collins' situation to maybe William Barnes in terms of been around for the program for a while? I know Chris Collins played a lot more in terms of snaps than Barnes did on the O-line last year, but in terms of like a make or break year, would you kind of compare? Do you think that's kind of an accurate comparison for those two?
Well, they were both 4-star kids and they were both huge catches. Barnes was the jewel of the class, and he played a lot of snaps his first 2 games. think he played 42 snaps as a true freshman in the opener at Cal a couple years
Yeah,
ago,
and just didn't play.
and he
Hasn't
struggled. I
played
mean,
since.
they were 3 and out like crazy that game.
I remember that one.
That was Mason Elliott really struggled that afternoon.
Yeah.
They still came back and almost won the game. That's how mediocre or bad Cal was.
Yeah.
And then he played a lot the next week and then just disappeared. Basically, he had some injuries, had some weight issues. But man, we're hearing nothing but very positive things about him now. So as far as Chris Collins goes, I just think that Chris was forced to play right away when he wasn't ready.
He's more of a
and maybe William wasn't ready either. Maybe he was physically ready, but maybe he wasn't ready to handle the load. I have no idea about
different
that.
At the college level.
Chris was forced to play early because they had no other answers and they had injuries. And I think that there was sort of a panic button was hit on that staff about, well, let's just get the young guys in. Maybe they can make play because they saw that things were falling down a mountainside very quickly. And so the red shirt was really good for him a couple of years ago. So he could take a breath and he could get his body right and he could start to learn what this staff wanted him to do. It would not surprise me if he's really good this year because everybody that covered his recruitment had him penciled in that you never say guys that can't miss. But Chris Collins was someone they said that, he's a near can't miss. Said the same thing about William Barnes. So we may see both of them take on expanded roles this year. Collins will get more snaps because you rotate there more than you will on the offensive line. But yeah, it's comparable, but different reasons. I think that they're probably needing it. If Jordan Tucker went down and William Barnes went in and was a starter, suddenly you could say that Collins and Barnes might be meeting at a point sort of at a similar time. But yeah, it's comparable, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I said, a loose comparison, but for some reason, kind of Barnes' head popped in my head when I thought about.
There are some similarities, and I haven't thought about that, but that is kind of interesting that you bring that up. Collins, if everybody's healthy, Collins will play a lot more this year than Barnes will. But Barnes will be ready to play if they need to call him.
Definitely, and that's important. If you haven't seen the offensive line video we did, just click on our channel. You can go check that out. Put that out a couple weeks ago as well. But I think it's a good place to wrap it up, AJ. Like I said, I think it's Fox and Hopper coming back is huge, and you got some younger guys in there that have a lot of potential. Even a guy like Chris Collins has been around that's going to have to continue to develop. So if they can get those guys to continue to develop and kind of keep on the same course that they have been and are expected to be, I think this is a group that's going to be fine and ultimately is going to be able to kind of do what Jay Bateman needs them to do on game days come August and whatnot. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. But I think this is a solid position group, to say the least. So I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Appreciate you guys watching. Like I said earlier in the video, sign up before April 25th on our site, THIillustrated.com. Don't pay until August 1st. You can click the link in our description to head over to our website and take advantage of that opportunity. If you enjoyed the video, though, guys, like, share, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.